addicted to one or more of the other 117 chemicals that they were putting into the cigarettes to warp my body out and destroy me. I got really irritated and quit.
I feel the same way.
I reasserted my sovereignty and said, no, I will accept pain, death, or anything rather than have you idiots and assholes control me.
Excellent, excellent. Clif, hi, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you very much to Oracle for hosting the broadcast. We're going to wrap it up in about 14. Give the network a nice clean break to the next show. But Clif, amazing, profound, and I completely agree. I quit smoking manufactured cigarettes and started smoking organic cigarettes. I know I'm still stuck in the paradigm, but I feel great. Before I was feeling just this tightness in my chest, and especially with this flame retardant they're putting in. What would you say about natural tobacco? We've had shamans on who say it's a sacred herb and it should be used medicinally.
That's quite true. It has specific purposes, especially with schizophrenics. Schizophrenics need to, and are desperate to self-medicate with tobacco because of the regulatory effect it provides to the brain. So I'm all for the shamanic use of it, but I'm an addict and I'd never touch it. Anybody who wants to quit tobacco it can be done mentally, that you can get over the whole psychological issues with a couple of little tricks that I can discuss real quickly. But you'll still have to go through the 3 days of withdrawal and then the 21 days of detoxing. After the 21st day, you start getting a whole lot better, and then by the end of 4 or 5 months, you'll go through predictably at the 6-month point, you'll get into a quitting phase where you'll want to take it up again, and then at 1 year, but they diminish. But the easiest way to do this is to recognize that you're dealing with two separate components here. The physical addiction, which lasts really about 30 hours, and then you're done with it. You start breathing better and you're feeling a lot better. But then there's that whole psychological component and the hand, eye, lips, and brain connection. You form this weird little feedback loop between your hand, which is very powerful. The eye-hand coordination, who was it? I can't remember, but some famous high-tech guy with software programmers and stuff would never hire a programmer who didn't do something with his hands, work in wood or model or anything, as long as you did it with your hands and you had that tactile, because it makes you think a particular way. It's a very big component. Once again, they're harmonizing with that. They're taking advantage of the fact that you have this connection between your hand and your brain whenever you bring your hand up in front of your face. So if you want to break that connection, what you do is you have to elevate it to consciousness. So you don't try quitting smoking or any of that. Just elevate the whole smoking process to consciousness by taking a little 3x5 card, little tiny bit of a pencil stub and a rubber band, and putting it with the cigarettes. Every time you have a cigarette, write down the date, the time, the number of the cigarette of the day, the 3rd, 4th, or 5th, or whatever, and whatever it is that makes you think at that moment that you want to smoke. And you just write these down. You don't even have to review them. I wrote them down for maybe 30 or 40 days, and I don't think I ever looked at them after the first week. It was the action of writing them down and raising them to consciousness that brought me to a conscious decision each and every time. I had to consciously then stop and think about smoking that cigarette. And eventually I stopped smoking them because it was abhorrent to me. The whole point was to not do it anymore, was to raise it to a conscious level. And so I've followed the Mark Twain advice. I quit 1,001 times.
That's amazing. The only times I've been able to quit were for 6-month periods, and 6 months later, picked it back up. You hit the nail right on the head.
Well, there's issues with the 180-day cycle relative to the sun. If I were addicted to tobacco, I would follow my horoscope, and I would get a very good period of time where I had Mars energy going to aid my body and all of this other stuff, and I would plan it out a little bit better. Last time I was an ignorant pig, and I suffered and went through stuff I need not have. But basically, it's all consciousness. And you get into all of these various different, universes, fractal, harmonization, everything is energy. And so what are they doing with the energy? Well, they're dealing with trapping your hand and your brain and everything into their grasp, and then they put that little white cigarette in there, and they are so desperate to continue this with you that they will give you another delivery mechanism now that cigarettes are no longer socially acceptable, and they'll give you the electronic cigarette to keep that same eye-hand-brain coordination thing going. Because that is really the core to that addiction, is that you do this unconscious action. and that you do it unconsciously. To break it, all you have to do is be conscious about every cigarette that you smoke. And you can decide to smoke the cigarette. No big deal. Give in to the, especially in the early days, give in to the physical addiction problem you've got to deal with and become conscious of it, and you just won't do it anymore. As the Buddhists say, once you become conscious of the pattern, you can step out of it. But if you can't see the pattern,
then there's no point.
Yeah, you're totally oblivious to it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Basically,
wow.
That's what Terence McKenna was really seeking, was to see patterns at those levels, to be able to step out at each layer and then see the pattern up above or below, depending on which way you want to look at it. And the nature of my job as a programmer was to be a programmer. And then one day I started seeing things within the program code, and these guys kept telling me, oh, no, you're full of it, you're full of it. And I told them, no, you're going to have problems with this because there's this pattern developing. And this was way back when, and now we have an actual science called design patterns, where we look at various different kinds of patterns that we see everywhere, and it's now becoming a science that we call complexity. So it's just a matter of being able to see all of the patterns. The more you can discover a pattern, then you can see how patterns themselves form. It's like I say, it's all fractally elegant.
Since we're on the topic, I have to ask you this. I know it's a cheesy question, no pun intended, but what kind of diet would you recommend for people?
Ooh, I wouldn't, because that's a personal level. Everybody's body type is different. There's 3 basic body types in an Ayurvedic sense. The Wraith, the people that look like heroin addicts, the athletic people like myself that are like wrestlers, and then there are big people like the Steven Seagal kind of big, right? Mm-hmm. And each of those body types demands a different kind of food. It is not that I would recommend a particular diet for people. I would recommend that people educate themselves about the Ayurvedic body types. Ayurveda means, Veda is truth and Aya is life. And it's a Hindu or Indian technique that's, as far as we can tell, about 6,000 years old. And it's got a lot of truth in it. But basically, if you educate yourself about your body will tell you what it needs to eat.
Okay. What about fluid intake? Water, things like that. Is spring water okay? Should we use Berkey filters, et cetera, et cetera?
I would worry about the food body of the planet because it's been polluted. So I would worry about water. I've got a well here, and we've got really good water. Water is very essential. I drink a lot of that stuff. I'd never drink, I would only under duress deal with bottled water, especially things in plastic. I would only under duress, where I had no other alternative, deal with stuff other than water to drink. So. And I really am totally against ever consuming any form of the what's that stuff? High fructose corn syrup.
Sodas.
But it's in a lot of different stuff now. They've got it in a form where they dry the crud and they put it into solid foods now. So you got to be careful. It's called dried flake sugars, and they've got all different kinds of names for it. So basically, I'm one of those guys that spends a lot of his time dealing with his food. I eat a lot during the day. I'm a vegetarian, but I might eat 6 or 10 meals every 2 hours or so. I might eat a lot. But I have the luxury of being able to deal with that. And so it's not necessarily practical for everybody to try and live the way I do. But my basic rule is that, it's not a food if it comes out of a box or a carton or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Processed food makes for processed people.
I wish I could look at it that way, but I grew up so in this system, I guess. I can't imagine how hard it would be to live like that.
To break away from that completely.
Yeah, to break away from the matrix completely like that.
It must be difficult. I mean, I've done it for so long. I'm I'm vegetarian for decades and decades, and I deal with providing the food for myself and my wife and our 2 dogs here, and I do all the cooking and so forth. So I've got it down to a fairly good system. It does not consume vast quantities of my day, and it is a positive and life-affirming thing to get involved with your food.
I would think so, yeah. I would really like to try that.
We've got about 4 minutes left in the broadcast. Clif, thank you so much for being so gracious with your time.
Yes.
I think this is a broadcast that people are going to take a lot out of on many, many different levels.
Well, I'm glad I could do it, guys. I'm just an old bald fellow that knows a few things, but I'm not even sure about that, right?
What would you like to leave the listeners with?
Well, we'd all better pay attention to the problems in Japan because they're going to rotate around the world as we go through 2012. I'm pretty convinced that the expanding planet model is really the way that reality is manifesting, and that has all kinds of ramifications on what we're going to face over the next couple of years.
All right.
So basically, let's all be prepared and, be as self-sufficient and as nice to ourselves as we can, and therefore we can be self-sufficient and nice to others as we go along.
Absolutely. And you haven't plugged anything all night. Please let the listeners know about the websites, etc.
It's okay. Universe takes care of that stuff, and I don't have a big ego. If Universe decides we're never going to sell another report, good, I can go off and finish my boat and do some sailing. So
I don't think that's gonna happen.
It's not about money, guys. We're so close to the end of money as an issue, and we need to reorganize ourselves away from the powers that be's little energy tokens.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, how would we replace the system? And I know this is a...
Hey, that's not up to me. I'm just, my role is very clearly defined with the universe. I just need to tell you what the problem is. It is up to you to solve it. So you come back and tell me what we're going to do.
Ah, there you go.
And how old are you?
31.
Okay, it's your planet. I'm getting close to checking out. So don't look for me, to me for solutions.
Okay.
I think he's handing over the baton to you, baby.
There you go. Yeah. I'm old and lazy. Get on to it. I'm going to go off sailing.
If we can get the elite to realize this too, these 80-year-old men who all they eat is pudding because they can't digest anything else, to realize that it is our planet and everything that they're doing is affecting us and our children, it'd be a much better world.
It'd make no difference whatsoever, because as David Icke is rather fond of saying, you would never be as they are, but that doesn't mean that they aren't that way. So these old 80-year-old men, they don't eat pudding. These are bloodsuckers, and I trivialize them, I make fun of them, I joke about them, but I take them in dead seriousness, because they are indeed very deadly beings that are inhabiting these humans and causing all of these problems. And no, they would not change. I don't know that re-education will help a lot of them. We still need to deal with them, and again, that's going to be an issue you guys have to work out.
That's it.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Clif High, we really appreciate it, and we hope to speak to you again in the future.
Okay, and good luck to us all.
You have a great evening.
Thank you,
very
Clif.
much. And ladies and gentlemen, Clif High Webbot project, halfpasthuman.com, his website. Check it out. Get the reports. Support the gentleman. I know he was being very humble about everything, but we all need funding when it all comes down to it. So support him. Get the reports and listen to the broadcast over and over, because I bet you can listen to this 15, 20 times over and pull something new out of it every single time.
Oh, absolutely. There was so much in there in the last 4 hours that we're going to have to listen to it 15 or 20 times just to get all the nutrients out of it. So.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. Oracle Broadcasting. Don't forget to check out all the great shows. Jack Blood's Deadline Live, of course, the Intel Hub, Doug Owens, Blacklisted News, Lee Rogers, Live Free or Die Radio, and so many more great shows. Mike Chambers, of course. OracleBroadcasting.com, the website, TruthFrequencyRadio.com, our website, and TruthFrequencyNews.com. We'll see you next weekend.
We love all of you.
Absolutely. That's what it's about. Infinite love is the only truth. Everything else is illusion.
With the renegades, castaways.